going to talk to you about colour boats, how we fold them. We're going to talk about the master set, what makes up a master set, and then finally how we actually use the colour boat and the master set together to colour grade diamonds, or in some instances other gemstones. The first thing is to understand is the following. In front of me are sheets of paper that are a shade of white, but they're not all the same colour. When we do have colour boats, a colour boat is white, but it is a particular colour of white, and the manufacturers of these boards are very specific and particular in the manufacture of them. So right around the world, diamond dealers use these colour boats because the colour of the card can affect your perception of the colour of the gem that you're looking at. And you may say, well, is that so critical? Yes, it is. The colour of the gem can vary one colour to another, and that difference is very, very small. But the dollar difference can be very, very great. So it's very important that we have consistency in the colour grading card that we use. Let me demonstrate for you how we fold it. And cards come flat. They are already pre-scored. So what we do, we fold it in on itself. We fold the sides back onto it. And finally, we fold in the edges. The reason for that is that I can now put a gemstone into the colour boat. I will be able to move it around or roll it around, but I'm not going to lose it. It's in a secure container, if you like, which allows me to move it around, but without any chance of actually physically losing or dropping it. Master set of diamonds for colour are a set of stones that have been carefully selected to conform to the international colour grading standards. These stones also should be fluorescence free because the ultraviolet component in light can affect your perception of the colour. Also, the stone should not be of clarity grade less than Si2, because the imperfections themselves, if they have colour in them, which they very often do, can also affect your perception of the colour of the stone. So a master set is carefully graded, non-fluorescent, and the grade better than Si2. The set also, the differences between each stone is set as equally apart as possible for consistency's sake, and it's an integral part of the grading of diamond. And a colour set is used both by the laboratories and by the big dealers when they're buying and selling diamond. It's an integral part of the 4 C's, which is colour, clarity, cut, and proportions of diamond. It's a very important part of the grading process and our understanding in the industry of colour itself. I have here in front of me the colour lamp that we're going to use to do colour grading. And I want to explain to you a little about it. This lamp has specific bulbs in them which are called cool white light. They're called white because they are ultraviolet free. And it is a fact that when we're colour grading, if there's ultraviolet interference, it can affect the perception of colour. So we use bulbs that are ultraviolet free. Sunlight, for instance, has ultraviolet. Incandescent lamps have ultraviolet. These lamps do not. They're called cool because they do not get hot when we're working with them all day. I can touch them without any problem at all, even if I had it on for 8 hours, where you know probably from experience that you cannot touch an incandescent bulb at all, even if it's been on for a second or two. So these lamps are called cool white light, and they're lamps that are used both for colour grading and for clarity grading in laboratories or in diamond dealers' offices or even in factories. The first thing we're going to do is learn how to hold the colour boat. You must always pick it up in the hand that you do not write with, because you're going to obviously have to make notes at some point. So you want the colour boat in the hand that you do not write with. That's the first thing. The second thing is that you've got to hold the colour boat between 7 and 8 centimeters from the light source. You must always hold the colour boat parallel to the light source. Do not tip the boat this way, because you'll find that you'll get a shadow on it which will, without a doubt, alter your perception of the colour. Once you've mastered that, we're now going to put a stone into the colour boat. Let me demonstrate with a model how that goes in. In other words, I want the stone will go in table down with the cullet facing away from me. So I pick up the stone carefully with the tweezers, and I'm going to put it table down with the cullet facing away from me in the middle of the colour boat. Let me show you how I'm going to actually colour grade. I'm going to pick up the diamond that I'm going to colour grade. I'm going to put it carefully into the colour boat, table down, cullet facing away from me. I'm now going to start with the master set, picking up from the darkest colour possible, because as humans are able to differentiate colour easier when we go from the darker colours to the lighter. So I'll start with the darkest stone possible, put it into the colour boat, and if the stone that I am grading is lighter than that stone, I take it out and go to the next one, which is slightly lighter. And so I will work my way slowly up the master set until I find one that matches or almost matches the one that I'm trying to grade, and so I will then make my judgment call whether I think it's a K or a J, or whichever stone I happen to have in against the stone that I'm grading at that particular time. There is a difference in methodology when grading round brilliant stones and the fancy shapes. And when I talk about fancy shapes, I mean any of the fancy shapes. When a pear, marquee, oval, the same rule will apply. Let me demonstrate for you. You know already that with a round brilliant stone, you pick it up, you put it table down, cullet facing away from you, and you're going to put in the master sets and finally determine the color that matches the stone that you're trying to grade. However, with a fancy shape, and this one happens to be a pear, we're going to put it into the boat, but we need to look at all the points on it. Let me demonstrate on the desk for you. When you look at the stone at the point, you're then going to turn it to the side and look through the one side of it. You're then going to turn around and look at the other point. Again, turn it and look at the other side. And each time you're looking, you'll say, well, for an example, it's an L color, and from the one point it might look like an M. But on average, through the back, we think it's an L color. We're still not done. With fancy shapes, you have to look face up, because face up, they very often have a deeper color, and it can be as much as two colors, different face up. So we would have a look, decide what that color is, and then average out the color of what we see face up and through the back to determine the overall color of that fancy shape diamond. What we mean by uneven color distribution is the following. When we look at the gem, it may well have imperfections in it that have color in them. It could be black, which is carbon, or it could be oxide, which is red. And the effect of that is when we do color is that it changes the color of the stone as we move it. And the effect of that is that it will affect the price. The laboratories will make comments on it that the stone has uneven color distribution, which will reduce the price of that stone. So it's a critical component to understand when we do color grading. So when I take the stone, pick it up, it happens to be a round brilliant, and put it into the color boat and turn it, what I'm getting is a flash of deeper color as I move it. So there's an uneven color distribution within the stone itself. There, the stone is a lot lighter. When we turn it some more, it goes dark. So we get what's called a blinking effect.